Welcome to the Suffolk Public Library's Own Your Career Job Readiness series. Today we're going to talk about basics of Microsoft Word and Excel. By no means is this going to make you an expert. We're talking basic stuff, but it is enough to get you started and enough to be able to do most things. If you're interested in learning more about doing more intermediate or advanced work within Word or Excel, be sure to check out our website and sign up for a discovery appointment. You can also look online and find tons of tutorials for both of these products, as well as the Google Drive alternatives, which are Google Docs and Google Sheets. Just a little bit about what we're going to go over. So we're going to start with Microsoft Word. We're going to go over opening a new document, saving a document, saving that document in various formats, finding a template, doing some basic document formatting. So going over how to change line spacing, using bullet points or numbered lists, grading columns, hard returns, which give you a whole new sheet, and then how to use fonts, adjust fonts and styles, inserting images, and printing. For Microsoft Excel, we're going to go over opening a new document, opening a saved document, saving document. There's also various formats for Excel, finding a template, everything that we can do pretty quickly and easily with worksheets. So adding, deleting, renaming, and reordering worksheets. We're going to talk about how you use formulas, where you can find them, and we'll go over a couple of formulas. There are tons of formulas in Excel that you can use, and when you get into the formula menu, it kind of talks through what those are. We're going to talk about some formatting, so data formatting, some data validation, and then basic conditional formatting. So just kind of going over how to use conditional formatting. And then sorting data, and we'll talk about printing as well. So when you're opening a new document, you're going to find Microsoft Word in your start menu, the icon on your desktop, wherever you have that saved. For a brand new document, you're going to click blank document. To open a document that you've already saved, you can go ahead and open Word, and it will have a list of some of the things that you've done recently. You can also use your file explorer. So you can go to your desktop, your documents, if you have a flash drive that you're using, or if you've downloaded something, this will be the quickest way to find it. And you'll just click on that document and it will open it up in a Word doc. So you'll see here when we're in Word and we're on the home page, we have a couple of templates here. You can also click on more templates. So there are tons that are already loaded into Microsoft Word. If you're connected to the internet, it can find more. You can also Google a whole bunch of different templates as well and download them. Not all templates that you find online are free, but you can find a good number of templates online that are free. So for the sake of this video, I'm just going to open a blank document. So we've talked about opening a new document. We've talked about opening a saved document. We've talked about navigating templates. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how to save documents. So you'll click right up here. You can click on this file button. You can also click on this floppy disk. And that just does a standard save. If you want to have a little bit more control over the format or change the name of your document, you're going to want to go into the file and you're going to click Save As. So for this, I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to call it test. But you'll want to name the document something that will make it easily identifiable for when you're trying to find it again in the future. So you can save it as a Word document. There's a whole bunch of other Word formats that you can use, but if you just use the regular Word document, that's really all you need for that. You can save it as a PDF, which makes it a different type of file. Those are probably the two that you're most likely to use, just a standard Word document or a PDF. If you run into anything where somebody wants a different format, then you might have to come in here and play around a little bit. It's unlikely that one of those two formats won't work for them. If you're running on a Mac and you're not using Microsoft Office for Mac, then you're likely going to have the document be a PDF, or you're going to have to open it in Google Drive or something like that. But typically, you're going to save it as a Word document or save it as a PDF. Once you decide which one, you'll hit save. And then from there on, any changes you make, you can just do save. You don't have to go back into save as, if that's how you want this document to live. All right, so a little bit about some of the different formatting options within Microsoft Word. We'll start with stuff to do with the fonts. So all of your font information is up here. You can also open it by clicking that little corner. So I'll show you again. There's that little box with a corner there, and it opens it up into a separate dialog box. So you can also here preview kind of what things would look like. So I can come through and pick out a different font. So we'll say that I want Arial. I can change my font color. So there's a bunch of pre-selected colors here. You can also open up more colors and either use this wheel, or you can adjust using the hex code if you have that, or by changing the red, green, blue. You can click around in here as well to change the base color and then lighten or darken it. If you don't want to use the RGB, you can also use HSL. It's similar, it just uses hue saturation and illumination instead of red, green, blue. So if you're looking for your font to be a specific color, you may be able to find that specific color using the hex key and use that there. We can also adjust whether we want it italic, so that's tilted, bold, bold and italic. We can change the font size. So you can go pretty high using just the drop down. Small caps, all caps, hidden. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. For the most part, you're not going to necessarily need to come into here to do it. You can do a lot of it from right here. So now I'm going to talk about using just right here. So let's say I wanted my font to be Courier New. And I can either use the drop-down menu to change the font, and you can drag it to give you more, or to make it bigger or smaller. You can also just type right into it. So let's say I want my font to be a number that's not represented on the drop-down menu. So I can type in 17.5 and hit enter, and that will adjust my font to that size. I can make it bold, italic, I can underline, and you can change the type of underline that you use. If I wanted to make a to-do list, and I know that I need to go grocery shopping, I can also use this to come in and strike through when things are completed. If you need to use, make a subscript or a superscript number, you can use these. So this is the subscript, so that puts the number below my text. If I use superscript, that puts the number above my text. You can do some more typography stuff. So you can change the type of font, give it a shadow, an outline, reflection, a glow. Most of the time you won't need to use that, but if there's a reason, like you're doing some sort of design or flyer and you want it to stand out a little bit more, you can do that. I can make a highlight color. So if I were, let's say I wanted to, this was important text, I wanted somebody to really pay attention to it, I could come in here and I could highlight it yellow. I can remove it by just covering it again and hitting no cover. I can change my font color from here and we get the same option. So like I can go more colors and pull up the same setup. Additionally, I could do a gradient. So if I have bigger text, I can have it fade differently and do some different things for me. There's some other stuff here that you can use. Most of the time, you're not going to need that. If let's say I'm working on something and I'm noticing that my text is starting to fill the page in a way that I wasn't ready for, I can use this to just automatically go up and down the list of their fonts. So I don't have to go in and and select it. I can use this to get to the size that I want visually without having to know the number right off. So that's pretty much everything with fonts. There's some other stuff that you can learn to do to make it a little bit more fancy, but for the most part, just knowing how to select your font and change your font size, and then using the bold, italics, or underline. There are ways to do that using shortcuts on your keyboard. But for the sake of this tutorial, since I can't show you my keyboard, we'll just use these buttons up here. All right, some other things that you can do formatting wise. I can change the alignment of my text. So right now I'm left aligned. So all my text will come over to the left side of the page. Right here is where I can go about changing my alignment. So if I click this middle one, it shifts all my text to the center. That means that my text will move out from the center. So as I type more, you'll see that it kind of moves out from the center and adjust based on my typing. I can also have it line up to the right. So here we'll line up to the right. So now the text will push to the left, but the side that will always be consistently even will be the right side. And then I can have it justified. So that means that my text will stay even on both sides. It's not going to default to one side or the other. Most of the time you're going to use left aligned or maybe justified. Right, so something else that you may find helpful is bulleted list or numbered list. So I can create my bulleted list here. If I already have text on the screen, and we'll go ahead and add a bullet to it. If I don't want that text to have a bullet, I can come up here and hit backspace. But let's say I do. Now, as I'm typing, once I reach the end of that bullet, I just hit enter, and it will automatically give me my next bullet. If I want to, for example, for grocery shopping, I want to create a list of some of the items that I would like, and I want it to fall under my grocery shopping. If I hit the tab key, it will indent that line and give me a new bullet to start with. So let's say I want milk and cookies. I hit enter, and then I hit enter a second time. That will restart my bullet. So then I can say that I need to go pick up my car from the shop. So that's the basics of bulleted lists. You can honestly tab over pretty much as far as you would like. So let's say I decided that maybe I wanted to go to a specific store for cookies. So I'll put that I want to go to Kroger and get my cookies. And I want to move cookies under Kroger. I can tab again. And you can go for a while. And this one is just visually to try to keep things a little bit differently organized. Now let's say instead of like a to-do list, working on steps, I'm working on something that I need numbered. If I hit the numbers up here, what it will do is a similar thing to the bulleted list. It will create my number one. So we're going to say number one is text. Messages for work. And then when I tab over, it creates a sub list. So somewhere of the bullets, I can keep doing the same thing. It's just numbered. So it's more of a sequential setting. So for both the bullets and the numbered list, there's these drop-down arrows. What those do is they give me some different options for the appearance of my list. So I can do standard 1, 2, 3. I could do Roman numerals. I could do ABC, uppercase Roman numerals, lowercase Roman numerals. There's lots of options. For the bullets, I can just change what the bullets look like. This other option here is more for if you're writing like a manual or a book. There's some different options. So I can do Article 1 heading, Section 1.01. And it will create more of like a manual, something a little bit more formal. And it gives you some of that additional pieces. Now I can also increase or decrease my indent. So instead of tabbing over, I can hit this button here and it will tab it. If I want to go back, I can hit Shift Tab, or I can use this button here and it will tab it back for me. Right, so one of the next things is line spacing. So this button here takes you to a drop-down menu for your line spacing. So what this does is it creates the distance between the two lines vertically. So if I wanted my lines to be further apart, I can highlight these since I've already started typing and hit 2. Or if I just want to, maybe I wanted these to stay at 1, but I want to come down here and I wanted to do something different. So you see here, these two are now set as 2 lines apart. You can also open this up and this gives you a whole bunch of other information. The line spacing is this bottom part here. So I can have before line, I can have after line. I could just do these here. I can also change this to make it different multiples and do some different things. We can also click this button, which will say don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. So just a little bit more about what else is on the screen. So indentation, so that's on the sides, how far in or out of the document, from the edge of the document. So I can decrease my indent on the left, or I can increase my indent on the left. You can do a similar thing by using tab. And we can do some just for the first line, for hanging lines. You can also do the same thing from the right, if you are right aligned. And then this is just that general stuff. So that alignment, right, center, left, justified. And then there's line and page break information. Right, so something else that we can kind of cover, we know something sort, something like paragraphs A to Z. So I'll take the first letter of each paragraph and sort it for you. This here also shows any of your markups as far as like indents, paragraph spaces. You won't really need to use this unless you're looking at doing some really intense editing. If you want to start a new paragraph, you just hit enter. But let's say this is all the information I want on this page. I want to start on a new page. The way that I can do that is by hitting Control Enter, and it will start a new page. That's a hard return. It starts a new page for us to start typing on. Right, so now to cover inserting images. So if you go up to the top, you click on the Insert tab. You click on Pictures, and you can do from this device, or we can go online if you're connected to the internet. So I can search, see, I want to add a picture of a cat. So then I just select the one that I want and hit Insert. So we'll use this one. If I'm selecting from my drive, I just need to find the folder. So we'll go over that too. So hit Insert, Pictures from this device. Let's see, I think I have a picture here. So we'll put in the picture of this painting that's from stepbysteppaintings.net. So that's how you insert the picture. Let's say I change my mind and I no longer want that picture. I can right click on the image and I can change picture, and I can select from file or online source. Something else that we can do here. So I can crop the photo in here. I can, here's crop. So that means I can take pieces off. So if I only wanted to show like that much of the image, then I can do that. You can also wrap my text. So what that means is it's how the text and the picture play together. So right now, if there were to be text on the screen, it would fall above and below the picture. But let's say I wanted it to fit around the picture. So it'll make a square around the outside of the picture. I can have it come right up against the picture, go through the picture, in front of the text or behind the text. There's some different options. You can also get to that same menu by clicking on your picture and then hitting this here. If you want your text to be kind of in line with your image, then you'll want to do one of these square or tight, so that way that the text is still kind of around, but you can move it around. So I can show you how to do that by moving this picture up here. So we'll come up here to this text. So you'll see that the text will move based on the picture. So if I wanted to maybe describe this picture, I can slide it over to the side and have the text on one side or on the other, or have it all kind of in the middle. But usually one side or the other is what you're looking for to keep it from being muddy. Let's see what else we can do. We can also change the size and position. So you can come up here and adjust the height. So let's say I wanted it to be about 4 inches, 4 inches tall. So it'll automatically adjust those ratios for me and change the size. All right, so now let's say that my document is exactly how I want it. We can go over ways that you can go about printing. So you can do Control P to print, or you can come over to File and come down to print. So right now my laptop isn't hooked up to a printer. So it's going to say that Adobe, but let's say I wanted to select this printer. There's some things that I can do here. So I can print all the pages. I can print just certain pages. So as far as printing, I can have it defaults to print all pages. But let's say I wanted to just print page 1. I can type in just 1. I can also have it print my current page, print a selection of the page. If I've highlighted a selection of the page, I can have it list my markups. So anywhere that I've added comments and things, I can have it print both-sided, print one-sided. Now when you print both-sided, if you're printing and you want it to flip over side to side, you're going to print on the long edge when it's portrait. If you have your paper landscape and you want it to flip side to side, you're going to print on the short edge. If it's portrait and you want it to flip top to bottom, you're going to use the flip on short edge. If it's landscape and you want it to flip top to bottom, you're going to use long edge. Depending on your printer, you'll get some different options. So I can change the orientation. So this is that portrait orientation or landscape orientation. I can have it print 1 page per sheet or multiple pages per sheet. And then once I'm ready, I just hit that print. You can also adjust the copies from here. So I'm going to go back into our document. And let's say I wanted to add some columns. Let's see, I can go over here to layout. So in the layout, I can also flip my orientation. I can adjust my margins too. If you want to adjust your margins, that's the area that you're able to type in. And then columns, you just click this column button here. And you can do 1, 2, 3, you have a small left or a small right. There's tons of different options. But when you select it, what it will do is as you're kind of typing throughout the screen, it will, when you reach the bottom, it will jump to your next column for you. All right, so I think that's everything for Microsoft Word. So now we're going to jump into Microsoft Excel. So this is Microsoft Excel. So if you want to open a new workbook, you just click on the Excel button, either on your start screen, your desktop, wherever you have it. We'll just click on that blank one. If you'd like to open one that you've already created or one that you've downloaded, You can find some of them here for the recent ones, or just like your Word documents, you can find them in your file manager. Excel also does have a number of templates. So these ones you see here are all tutorial templates. So if there's specific things that you want to learn, like creating a drop-down list or using different formulas, you can use some of these templates, and Excel will actually walk you through how to do those different things. However, if you're looking for more of like, I want to create my own calendar, you can find those in the templates. You can either search for it, use these here. You can find them on here or online. Whichever one you would like, you just select and then you start working. So for today, I'm going to use a blank workbook. So similar to Microsoft Word, there are ways that you can save this type like an Excel document, but it has different file formats that you can save it as. So you can always click the floppy disk up here at the top. Otherwise, you can jump into File, come down to Save As. We're going to say that I'm going to put it in my downloads. So right now it's an Excel workbook. There's some different options that you can do. For the most part, the Excel workbook is pretty standard. A CSV is another one that's very standard. For specific types of uploads, they may ask you to do a CSV or an XML data. Another option, of course, is always saving it as a PDF. If you're creating a workbook, it's easiest to just save it as an Excel workbook. And then if you're looking to upload it to a website or to a file management system for work, most of those will tell you what kind of file they'll accept. So they'll say that they want it to be a CSV or an XML. But for the most part, the easiest way to get started is to just use an Excel workbook and save it as that. Right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about worksheets. So right now in Excel, I am in a workbook. So that means that everything that I put in this workbook is part of the workbook. So sheet 1 is a worksheet. If I wanted to add more sheets to my workbook, I'd hit this plus button here. I can add as many sheets as I want or as I need by hitting that plus button. So right now, sheet 5, this is my worksheet that I'm currently working on within this workbook. The distinction between those is important when we get to printing or sometimes when you're uploading or saving. So like I said, just using the plus button down here adds sheets for you. If I wanted to delete a sheet, I'll right click on it and I'll hit delete. I can also rename my sheets. So let's say I wanted this to represent my sales over the course of the last 6 months. I can rename these sheets for each month. So let's say this one is going to be September. We're going to rename this one August, July. So you get the point there. So something else I can do. So let's say my supervisor has asked for my sheets in newest to oldest. I can click and drag the sheet and rearrange them to be whatever order that I need them to be in. So you just click on it and you drag it. So you'll see that little black arrow kind of tells you where it's going to nestle in. Some other stuff that you can do, you can change the color. So if I wanted each of these to be a different color to make it easier to see, I can just go in here and select that. Protect the sheet means I can lock the sheet, which means people can't go in and make changes or edit it. For move or copy, so I can change what book it's in. So right now I'm in this book, but if I had another book that I was working in, I could move my sheet to that. I could also create a copy of that sheet and put that copy of the sheet into that workbook. So let's say right now I want to make a copy of September and I want to keep it in book 1. I can do that. And so you'll see now I have 2 Septembers. But if I just wanted to make a copy of September and move it into a new workbook, when I'm in here, I just select the new workbook, either one that's already open, or I can create a brand new one if I'm working on a new project. Right, so a little bit about formatting. We're going to go over a couple of different things. So just like in Word, I can change my font, my size, my text size, either using the drop down, typing it in, or doing font size up and down. I can bold, italicize, underline, I can highlight, I can change the color. So with the highlight, I can select multiple cells to highlight or fill with that color. Or I can select individual cells. It all is dependent upon what I need. So something that is unique here, I can decide the borders of the cells. So I can create all bottom borders. So since I have this whole thing outlined, you'll see now that there's a bottom border on just that. So let's see, in the same square, I can add a top, a left, a right. I can add all borders, which covers everything in the highlighted area. If I wanted to maybe draw attention to information specifically in this chunk, I can highlight it. I can also put a thicker border. So similar to Microsoft Word, I can change the justification or the positioning of my text. So right now, my text in this cell has defaulted to right align, and it's sitting at the bottom. I can move it to the center line or sitting in the center. So it's a little bit easier to see. So bottom align, center align. I can do left and I can do top. Now to go over a little bit about what I just did to expand the cells. So whenever you get that bar with the two arrows, you can use that to drag cells around. Let's say I wanted all three of these to expand by the same amount. I can highlight them and then drag them so that they're all the same size. Something else that I can do. So let's say I just want my cells to fit the text that's in them. When I come in here and let's say I'm going to make it a long, so I have that long string of text. And you'll see right now it's building over these other cells. The second I type something in that cell, this gets collapsed. So the easiest way that I can go about expanding it to the right size, when I get that same bar and double arrow, I can double click and it'll expand it out, that cell size out, to meet the need of that cell. I can do the same thing over here. So let's say I accidentally made it too tall, you can double click and it will shrink or grow to fit what I need. Something else that is worth knowing is how to merge cells. So let's say I want this whole line to be the title for a spreadsheet that I'm working on. I highlight all the cells that I want included, and I come up here to my merge cell. So we'll combine all of those cells. So now when I start typing, it crosses all of those cells. Additionally, if I were to try to highlight, let's say that cell and then anything around, like above or below it, it would automatically fill all the way across. If I wanted to unmerge those cells, I just have to click on them and hit the button again. All right, so over here, this is something unique for Excel compared to Word. We have our number formatting. So what this is how Excel will interpret the way that we're putting in numbers. So right now it's on general, but I can have it interpret every single number to be a number, to be money, to be a short date, a long date, a time, a percentage. So like, let's take a look at date. Let's say I'm putting in an order, or I've ordered something and I want to keep track of when I've ordered things. I can come in here and I can type 9/8, and it will go ahead and say that I ordered it on Wednesday, September 8th. It will default to the current year. So if you want to backdate it, you'll have to go in and edit that. So you can edit that here by just changing it. Let's say I want it to backdate it to 2020. The short date just makes it new numbers. So it gets rid of the day of the week and the full spelled out month. Say I wanted that to be a percentage. So that's it as a percentage, as currency, as time. So this one will default to the day and time. If you're having something where you're typing in and the format changes on you, check to see what that cell is saying is the format for the numbers for you, because that's going to be where that's going to live. All right, so before we jump into some of the conditional formatting and data validation, although the number thing is part of data validation, I want to talk about how you can go about sorting. Now, if you're going to be doing any sort of data sorting or you want it to move stuff around, the first thing I want you to do is go into your view, into your data. So we're going to highlight our data. We're going to do sort. And we're going to do sort by names. Now I can come back in here and I can flip it Z to A, A to Z. I can also change it instead to sort by my order number. So it's going to do smallest to largest or largest to smallest. I'm sure, I don't know why it's not. Oh, it defaulted back to names. So we have it short, smallest to largest, or short, largest to smallest. I can also filter information. So if I only want to see people with, say instead of this order number was amount paid, and I only see people who paid $9. I can filter out everybody who didn't pay $9. And then if I want to stop, I just hit filter again. There's some other stuff you can do with filtering, but it's not quite as important to what we're doing right now. All right, so conditional formatting. Conditional formatting is where you can have Excel go through and make visual representations of some different information that you want to categorize. So let's say instead of order number, these were grades for a test. And I wanted to make it easy for me to see who passed or like who failed this test. So who scored below a 60, we'll say. So I'll highlight that, that column. I'll come up to my conditional formatting. And there's a bunch of different ones here that you can use, and they do different things. The easiest ones to navigate are the highlight cells rule or the top bottom rules. So for highlight cells, I'm trying to figure out those who highlight everybody who scored below 60%. I'm going to use the less than, and I'm going to say 60. And I can change the color, the border, how that data is being represented. I hit OK. And so you'll see I have two, well, minus so many blank ones. I have these two here that scored below 60. If I only wanted to do like a small chunk of them, I don't have to highlight the whole column. I can highlight just the area that I want the conditional formatting to apply. So if I wanted to see everything in that area that had conditional formatting, I can hit manage rules. So I can edit this rule, I can delete this rule, I can add new rules, I can change which section I'm working in. And then all I have to do is hit apply. That's the basics of conditional formatting. The best thing you can do is get around and play with it some. There are some things that are a little bit more difficult or complicated. When that happens, it will pop up with an error or nothing will happen. All right, so the last thing we're going to cover is printing. So there are a few different ways that you can print within Excel. I can print my whole workbook. I can print an individual sheet. Or I can print an individual section. So let's say I really just wanted to print this section here. I'll highlight it. I'll come up to File and go to Print. So similarly, you'll need to make sure your printer is selected. So right now I have it set to print active sheets. So that's the sheet that I'm currently on and open to. I can do print the entire workbook, which since this was the only sheet that had any information in it, This one's when it's showing up, but if all of them did, then all of them would show up. Or I can print just a selection. I can scale it, so I can have it fit on one page, fit all columns or all rows on one page. I can also make it bigger or smaller. Once I have it looking the way that I want to, I can go ahead and hit print. All right, so I believe we got through everything on the list here. So thank you all for joining the Suffolk Public Library and learning a little bit about using Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. Again, if you're interested in learning more advanced or more specific pieces of either of those, feel free to look at our website to sign up for a discovery appointment or explore the internet and find some different tutorial videos or use, for example, Excel's tutorial spreadsheets that you can work through. Have a great day.